The air inside the abandoned hospital's operating theater was frozen and thick with the chemical stench of old formaldehyde and dried blood. Marcus had separated from his filming crew to find the hotspot of the building, stepping into a room lined with green tiles and rusted medical equipment. In the center stood a heavy, cast-iron surgical table, its leather straps rotted and stained dark. He raised his camera, the glowing LCD screen providing the only light in the suffocating gloom. At 3:42 a.m., a sharp, metallic snap echoed through the room. The camera's battery icon drained from full to dead in an instant, plunging Marcus into pitch darkness. The ambient temperature dropped so fast that his sweat froze against his skin, and the air grew heavy, smelling intensely of rotting copper. Then, a rhythmic, wet sound began from the corner of the room. Asterisk squish. Drag. Squish, asterisk. Something heavy and saturated was sliding across the tiled floor. Marcus fumbled for his backup penlight, his hands shaking so violently he dropped it twice before clicking it on. The thin, weak beam cut through the dark, illuminating the surgical table. The leather straps were moving, thrashing wildly against the iron frame as if fighting an invisible occupant. Marcus backed toward the exit, but his boots slipped in a sudden puddle of cold, gelatinous fluid that hadn't been there a moment ago. He looked up, sweeping the light across the walls. The green tiles were weeping, a thick, black oil bubbling out from the grout, running down the walls in sluggish streams. The room seemed to be contracting, the walls pressing inward. The dragging sound was right behind him now. Marcus spun around, raising his light. Standing between him and the door was a towering entity stitched together from discarded anatomical parts. It had no skin, only raw, exposed muscle fibers glistening with dark fluid, and its head was a mass of jagged surgical needles driven into a faceless skull. Where its chest should have been, a massive, rib-lined cavity stood open, pulsing like a wet lung. He lunged for the door, but the metal handle had warped, sealing the exit. The creature didn't make a sound, but the surgical needles in its skull began to vibrate, creating a high-pitched, deafening squeal that filled his ears with blood as the wet cavity in its chest opened wide to pull him into the dark.